Welcome to Syncast powered by Commercient. My name is Heath McKnight. Today I'm speaking with Dan Taft. Dan, we were talking a little bit earlier. Your background is actually quite interesting and completely different than helping people with marketing automations, for small businesses, CRM through HubSpot. I saw that you went to Johnson & Wales cooking school and you were in that industry. And also I saw something about wine and everything. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. It was quite the switch. I did originally go to culinary school. I was not a very good high school student. My mom just insisted that I get a bachelor's degree, and I kind of fell into cooking. I was doing that for a long while and then kind of accidentally fell in love with wine. Worked in some wine bars for a while, but I think just ultimately there wasn't enough room to grow. I was thinking about doing some wine sales, and I was like became a certified sommelier and everything before the pandemic. Pandemic kind of changed things, and then the long story made short as I stumbled my way into tech, and very thankful that after many failed attempts in the HubSpot the interview process, they finally accepted that it wasn't going to take no for an answer, and here I am now.
Awesome. And was there any sort of mentor that helped you, or did you go into what I think is their phenomenal HubSpot Academy? And I've gone through it, not only learning the technical side of HubSpot, but also learning really great tips for inbound sales, inbound marketing. I mean, the sky's the limit. How did you go about that? And again, did you have a mentor or anything?
Yeah, thankfully HubSpot has a great culture where truly everybody's like happy to lend a hand, happy to answer questions. There's no like infighting or, really battling over one each other. We really just try to help each other out. So there were definitely specific mentors along the way. And then in terms of just learning the industry and learning the product knowledge, I didn't start right away in the full sales cycle. I did start as a BDR role. So lots of cold calls, lots of cold emails, lots of conversations about just learning kind of like the challenges that folks were facing. And then I think you just end up hearing same consistent things usually for similar industries. Manufacturing, for example, would always be talking about how they couldn't, were really struggling with inbound lead generation, or that they were way behind the times on technology, where, software folks are always trying to figure out how to scale, like long term, how to get really a repeatable process down to become more efficient. And I think it just grow from there. And with the product itself, the HubSpot Academy was awesome. And then just it's an easy use system. So folks will tell me their use case, and then I can just jump into my demo portal and be like, well, how would I set it up? Like, how does this other customer that we have that's similar to them, like, how do they have theirs set up? Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I had mentioned earlier that when I've talked to some small businesses on the Commercient SYNC side, and I asked them after, they've been implemented with HubSpot, particularly the CRM, and with Commercient syncing their ERP data over, I said, tell me about HubSpot. And they said, we had no idea that this would help us like it did, because they were like, we're such a small business. Why would we need something like that? We're going to make do with sending out emails from this service, and then we're going to sign up for another service, and maybe we'll use some spreadsheets to kind of manage our customers, and it's like suddenly it's this mess for them. And they still thought, well, we're not big enough for HubSpot, the marketing side and the CRM. How do you approach those customers that maybe are a little skeptical, not of the product, but thinking that, I don't know if this is gonna help because we're so small. But when they do, it helps them grow their marketing and their sales and everything.
Yeah, well, HubSpot's mission statement that our CEO and really everybody at the company keeps banging the drum on is being the number one CRM for scaling companies, right? So I usually tell folks that we have a very small business segment where we have people helping buy and implement, get started on HubSpot software that are one-person companies, all the way to companies that have thousands and thousands of salespeople that have international marketing teams, that are working at every channel that you can imagine. It's really it sounds like we might fight on a lot of battles, but that's sort of definitely by design. I think the issue that a lot of small businesses face that go with sort of like a more point-like solution is there's a lot of time there that has a dollar value assigned to it, as well as the initial investment spent, money lost, and not being efficient enough. And two, when you start with HubSpot, where really the goal is we're all on one code base, we're all on one system. You need a sales solution now, you're going to need a marketing solution tomorrow, and the year after that, you might need a ticketing solution, or everything is really meant to be easy and long-term growth in one system rather than piecemealing, as you mentioned before. We call it here like a crafted versus cobbled approach. You could cobble a bunch of things together and try to make it work, or you could just go all in one route.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot. They say, wow, it's just so great to, if you will, have everything under one roof. And it's just one thing only that they have to worry about, one license, if you will, one solution that seamlessly works with everything else, like you said, from the CRM to then the marketing, and then, hey, you might need that ticketing solution down the road. If you don't mind me backing up a little bit, with your background in the wine and restaurant industries, do you ever call upon that background to help out when you're talking to customers? I'm sure you talk to small businesses across multiple industries, but does any of that background kind of help you out when you're speaking with them and everything?
Definitely. I think I have permanent hospitality brain. Like it's like one of those things. I'll be sitting at a table in a restaurant and a friend will get up and leave their napkin kind of like unfolded. It's like I immediately have to reach for that napkin and start. I think that translates to helping folks. It's like that hospitality mindset still there. It's very weird because the word customer is a big swear word where it came from. You get caught calling a guest a customer, you're in big trouble. So I try to keep that mindset still, like that customer word. I know it's treated differently in business. It's not a swear word, but to me, it still kind of is. I still kind of cringe a little bit every time I say it. So try to treat everybody kind of more of like the guests and try to understand, how and if we can help their, like business, and if we can't, being honest about that. And then same, if we can, really make sure that we advocate for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk to a company, particularly when they're looking for the CRM, how many of them are asking about specific features that you can kind of say, hey, listen, these are the features that you're really going to need? And I guess what I'm trying to say is try to get them to move away from using Post-it notes. You'd be surprised what I hear. Post-it notes. They're using note cards, legal pads, copies of copies stuck on various computers with different versions of spreadsheets. I think that's the most common thing. And nobody has any idea what's going on, especially a sales manager, and even a small business that may have like 3 or 4 salespeople on their team. They have no idea what's going on in the pipeline. What do you tell them about HubSpot's CRM, the features that can really help them get a really good eye on that pipeline and everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. And similarly, like a couple months ago, I had somebody purchase HubSpot because the final straw was that somebody went on vacation and the important information that they needed was living on a clipboard that wasn't in its usual drawer. Oh. It was in a different drawer, and that, they lost the sale because of that.
Oh my goodness.
Really, I try not to feature dump, if you will, and really talk, this feature will do this feature will do that, but really try to understand sort of the challenges that are happening and then tell that story. And I think, that story for those folks, and what you mentioned, like for a lot of people, just asking the question, like, so your salespeople are working out of their email and their own spreadsheets today. Like, have you considered what's going to happen when they leave the company? God forbid. Like what's going to happen to their book of business? What's going to happen to that history? There's money lost in that Gmail account of theirs. But really just getting the whole team on one system that you can work out of, that's easy to use, that people are going to want to use. It's not just about the features and like being a good system, but using the system is actually king, over everything else. People have to use it. So just providing space where you can, align your whole RevOps solution, like marketing, sales, service under one spot, so that people can collaborate together more efficiently and understand what's working is usually, the key thing that speaks to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that might beat a story I heard where somebody said that prior to HubSpot CRM, they would put orders into on a Post-it note. And so the sales office is here, the manufacturing warehouse is back here, and there's a doorway and it's open. And they would put the Post-it notes up. So the manufacturing team would walk in and grab it. And he told me, you better hope that if you just ordered $50,000 of what they manufacture, that Post-it note doesn't fall, because you're going to be wondering 2 weeks where your order is. And I'm like, holy cow. So a clipboard can cost a sale. And in some cases, it could be a significant sale. Now, when you're talking with people using the HubSpot CRM, and also the manufacturing, what are some of the most common third-party apps that they request? And it's a little bit of a segue to how Commercient, can help them further.
Yeah, good question. So I think oftentimes it's an accounting solution, or something like a QuickBooks, whether that be online or desktop, is going to really seal their fate as to like working with Commercient and sort of like what that lift's going to look like. Mm-hmm. I was here too, like a DocuSign, PandaDoc, sort of like those kind of like signature solutions are pretty common as well. Mm-hmm. But from there's a lot of just smaller ones. And I think as people continue to ask, like, well, I'm using Hootsuite, or I'm using this or that, it's like we can replace a lot of these tools, which is nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think typically, where Commercient really comes in and saves the day is for those kind of bigger integrations that, in terms of getting inventory over there or working with a complicated accounting system that's been, like the HubSpot app marketplace has so much and it's so easy to use, but there are things that and no company would ever be able to just have as like a plug and play, which is, which is the reality, for a lot of people, and making that as easy as possible and as accessible as possible is really what's been helpful so far.
Awesome. And thank you for saying that. And we see a variety of ERPs that we are syncing to HubSpot, and in many cases, syncing certain things back from HubSpot to their ERP. You mentioned QuickBooks Desktop online, NetSuite, Sage 50. A lot of these ERPs, and they scale up too, and they're finding that even the enterprise are finding that just that power of HubSpot and everything. I was wondering if you could maybe kind of talk a little bit more about why a company would need, like you said, inventory and other information synced over by Commercient from their ERP to HubSpot.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's different for every customer, but I think the trends are the same. People come to HubSpot because they're looking for the all-in-one feel, and they want their data all in one place. Mm-hmm. Data silos, like if your data is good in one spot, but it's not in another, is it really good anywhere? Mm-hmm. Probably not. So I think it's also getting the same thing with like the team being more on one page, understanding really like the whole system and like getting that to click together. And in terms of just inventory itself, it's been a bunch of different use cases. It's been, well, we're a small business and we deal with high value items that we don't have very many of. So if we oversell, like that's going to be a huge problem for our customers. Or it's also going to just be a basis of, we deal with higher volume sales, but we also want to report on that accurately, and getting those things to talk together is huge.
Yeah, that's amazing. And also with we call it our phase 2 sync. So I would be data created in HubSpot, sync back order over, I guess in particular, like a contract order, that type of thing, new company added and everything. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that could help then the accounting team that is handling that kind of thing, like the invoicing and whatnot, having that certain data synced back that was created in HubSpot CRM.
Yeah, I think this goes back to the data silo issue. Like people are trying to get off of this. And the biggest pain for those folks, usually when I speak to them, is about how much time this is going to take and how big the lift is going to be and how accurate it's going to be. So when you're talking about systems like this not being connected, how do you get that? Are you going to like copy, paste, like download a CSV, upload a CSV, delete last week's info because it's not up to date anymore? Like these generally, when I speak mostly to small businesses in my role currently, that's the segment I work with, there's just not the manpower for that, and this ends up being a very costly issue. If they rather just synced in real time, like that bilateral sync where they can just have it work with the system that they're used to, right? Because a lot of these accountants don't want to work in a CRM. They want to work in their Sage or their QuickBooks instance, and have that like not affect their day jobs and just make it easier. Is usually where they see a lot of value.
Awesome. And we talked a lot about CRM. I was wondering if just a little bit about how Commercient syncing over certain data, perhaps what purchases have been popular. Wow, we've been selling a lot of this. And then going into the marketing automation and maybe using that to segment customers and really deliver a great, as HubSpot would say, a delightful marketing experience to help grow sales. I was wondering if you could touch a little bit upon that.
Yeah, definitely. One of the powerful aspects of HubSpot is its customization and the amount of properties that come based in the system, and then the amount of custom properties that you can put in based on really whatever you want. And I always tell people, look, the reporting, it's, kind of a monster to talk about fully in depth, but at the end of the day, as long as there's a property in HubSpot, you can create a report off that. You can segment your customers on that. You can market to them on that. You can really personalize your sales outreach based on what exists in those properties. And so when we can sync the data, like from your an ERP into HubSpot, when that's done automatically, as long as that data exists in HubSpot now, which it does with the sync, then we can understand, okay, like this, batch one have bought this product. This product typically goes well with this product. Like, let's create a marketing campaign, like based on that, so we can like drive more revenue. And then of course, that revenue is going to tie back into their ERP. The ERP is going to keep on fueling each other over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last question I have is, are there any tips that you can maybe pass along to small businesses that are considering HubSpot and the importance of, or anything that could kind of help prepare them, particularly the ones that are using those spreadsheets and those clipboards that are in the wrong drawer and everything, that can prepare them for kind of that transition from almost an analog way of thinking to the CRM digital way of thinking. Are there any tips that you could pass along to help them kind of, because it can be scary. I've heard this. It can be a little scary to kind of move into this awesome world of HubSpot and everything. Any tips to kind of help with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, sometimes a lot of these analog to digital folks haven't evaluated too much software before. And I think it's just that like not knowing what to expect can be challenging. So I think sometimes, I get teased for this because, some friends and I will go out to dinner, right? Go back to the hospitality thing. And I'll be like, there's a lot of people here. It's kind of hard to coordinate. We should just tell this server to order for us. There's a lot of hesitation. You got to let go of some amount of control. You have to be like ready for their expertise. So I think those folks that like might be evaluating, like different systems or a new CRM or wants to take a look at HubSpot, if they're not like 100% sure as to like how we're going to fit, how our pricing model works, kind of like where we can go, I think that's totally okay. Just, like ask questions and then look for feedback. And I would always ask, like, why are you recommending this? Like, do you see us needing to, like go from pro to enterprise at some point in the future? Yes, or why not? Like, what does that timeline typically look like? So I was saying to definitely ask the hard questions. I think we're definitely like happy to receive them. And then if you have time, I know maybe some other salespeople would get bothered by this, but evaluate another point solution, because I think we do really well. I think especially when people get an idea. So like what else is out there, and really kind of like where we excel at value. So I'd say get ready to do a little bit of your homework, like ask difficult questions, but don't be afraid to, like ask for a little bit of help in your evaluation as well.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, really appreciate you taking the time, Dan. And where would a small business go to learn more? Just HubSpot.com?
Yeah, we got a great spot on HubSpot's website called Why Choose HubSpot. And that gives like a really detailed breakdown of how we're structured, how we help companies. Something that people love as well is that we're very transparent on our pricing. So you can like jump on the pricing page and do a little bit of digging around there. We have a whole case study library. Don't be afraid to chat into our chat bot and ask questions or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and have a good one.
Yeah, thank you as well. It's been great working with the Commercient folks. I'll give a shout out to your sales team, who are both balanced very well, being very technically knowledgeable, but also being great salespeople to work with, like understanding people's businesses and helping, like address timeline. I think when people go to HubSpot and they find that they need an ERP integration, 90% of the time, they're not expecting sort of having to work with a partner, to be frank, or to have an additional cost. But I think Commercient really makes their value clear and makes it just like a breeze to work with, which I appreciate. And I think customers do too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. Hope to speak to you again in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you for tuning in to Syncast, powered by Commercient. Learn more about ERP and CRM integration with Commercient Sync by logging on to commercient.com.